If the season ended today, who do you think would be the Heisman Trophy winner? I really think we have just 3 contenders through 7 games to choose from. And it's not to say somebody else can't edge up or even win the award, but as I see it, we're talking about 2 Big Ten players and maybe the best quarterback outside of it contending for the 2025 Heisman Memorial Trophy. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching, adapt and respond. Thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year round. If you're into that, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like this video, and answer the question in the comments below. Do you think Ty Simpson, Fernando Mendoza, or Julian Sayin should win the Heisman Trophy if the season ended today? To the folks that already decided to drop into the comments and say the season doesn't end today and none of these guys could win the Heisman Trophy, congratulations. I appreciate you for stating the obvious. Is the sky blue? Is it going to rain outside? Am I black? All of these things. Okay? So if you're still here and you want to participate in the exercise, perhaps you'd be interested to know that Ty Simpson has been really, really good, guys. Like outside of the Florida State game, which is even more egregious, the more that we look at what Florida State has done and what Alabama has done. Ty Simpson has been really, really good. And he's got not 1, not 2, but 4 top 25 wins through 7 games. All of those coming against SEC opponents. And Alabama is still undefeated in the SEC. But he's got a couple of things going for him that, frankly, Fernando Mendoza and Julian Sayin don't. He walked into Sanford and walked out with a W. That, if nothing else, is just wildly impressive. Because 33 other teams had walked into Sanford since October 12th, 2019, and walked out with an L tattooed on the forehead, one way or another. Sometimes it's in curb stomping fashion. Sometimes it's in 8 overtimes against Georgia Tech. But Alabama really didn't leave much doubt as to who was the better team that day. And Ty Simpson played really, really well. He was 24 of 38 for 276 with 2 TDs and 0 INTs. He's very much playing like a coach's son. He's accounted for 20 total touchdowns, 18 through the air, and just 1 interception. And he's been good for over 200 yards passing in each one of the outings that he has had. Matter of fact, we're looking at his worst performance being 23 of 31 for 200 yards with 3 passing TDs against Missouri. And then they were able to pull away from Tennessee in a way that they weren't against Missouri. But as the season continues to go, we are going to watch very closely what Bama does, because if they end up in the SEC championship game, there's every indication that Simpson will be a finalist for this trophy. And yet another one of these guys that is winning by simply staying the course and staying where he is. He watched Jalen Milroe, right? He watched how Eli Holstein was supposed to be ahead of him. He ends up at Pitt. Dylan Lonergan supposed to be ahead of him. He ends up at Boston College. He watched Julian Sayin come in, who was supposed to probably follow him, but could have been ahead of him. And he has stayed the course with a new head coach, with a new offensive coordinator, and it's working out. It's been really good. Jeremy Bernard has risen to what we think is wide receiver 1 at Bama. Ryan Williams is still Ryan Williams, though, so that could change. Cole Adams has been great when they get him on the field. And the running game has been consistent. The defense has been playing lights out the last few weeks for Kane Womack. So Bama feels like a real contender for the national championship, but are they that good? Meanwhile, above the Mason-Dixon line, a lot of the conversation is centered around Fernando Mendoza and not Julian Sayin. As a matter of fact, most of it, like Fernando Mendoza is getting better Heisman odds than Julian Sayin, and I'm not quite sure I agree. I see why you might believe that Fernando Mendoza is the front runner for this award, but I see what Julian Sayin is doing, and I got questions. But let's talk about Fernando here for just a second. For me, the Heisman Trophy is always about 2 things. It's either, are we giving it to the best player in the country? Usually not, because the best player in the country is usually not a quarterback. Or are we giving it to the best player on the best team in the country, which is usually what we are doing, right? And Fernando Mendoza leads the number 2 team in the country, 7-0. They got a great win on the road against Oregon. And he's been lights out passing this year too. He's got the best passer efficiency rating in the country at 191. He has thrown 23 touchdowns, which is the most for any quarterback in the FBS this year. They're averaging better than 40 points per game. He's throwing for an average of 272 yards per game, and he's completing, again, 73.5% of his passes. And his two wide receivers have been really, really good. Omar Cooper and Elijah Surratt. They're not as good as some, but if you looked at how many duos they're keeping company with, they've got 3 more touchdowns as a duo than Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, which is saying quite a bit, as Carnell Tate, for me, is wide receiver 1 to take in the NFL draft. And, of course, Jeremiah Smith will be wide receiver 1 to take in the 2027 NFL draft. It's really ridiculous that both he and Sayin are true sophomores. Just wild. And still, we're talking about an Indiana that has never been where it is now. They look like a threat to play in the Big Ten championship against Ohio State. And they don't play Ohio State this year in the regular season, so it'll be the first time the two have matched up, meaning that they could match up again in the college football playoff if things continue to go that way. And I think, for me, the question is, if Fernando Mendoza continues to play at the level he has and Julian Sayin continues to play at the level he has, are we still going to believe that Fernando Mendoza is the best player on the best team in the country? Or is that actually Julian Sayin, who leads the number 1 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes? The question for Ohio State's a little bit interesting, because everybody in the world will tell you Jeremiah Smith is the best player on that football team. But Julian Sayin plays quarterback, and he's been playing really, really fantastic quarterback. Realize that Julian Sayin has completed 80.6% of his passes this year. That is an enormous number, even in an age where it's becoming much more regular for guys to complete 70% of their passes, and they didn't used to do that in college football. We are also talking about a guy who, frankly, I think is playing better than anybody expected. He came out the gate firing, man. He's throwing for 3 bills when they let him. He sees it early. He gets rid of the ball early and often. He's also thrown for about 267 yards per game, and that's with a couple of games where he hasn't thrown for 200 yards. We're talking about a Julian Sayin that is taking what the defense gives him. And if you run the levels concept and you run the drag concepts, he's going to beat you. You're going to go with Jeremiah Smith. He's going to find Carnell Tate or Brandon Ennis or Max Clare. The run game has been going. The knock against Julian Sayin is that he has the best defense in the country playing on the other side. And I don't know that that's so much a knock, because Stetson Bennett had that for 2 years. Didn't win in the Heisman Trophy, though. And that might be what you're saying. Giving it to a true sophomore is also kind of out of the ordinary for the Heisman voters. They like to give it to an upperclassman. And Fernando Mendoza is a graduate transfer from Cal, famously graduated from their business school there, and is doing a really good job of setting himself up for a great future after football. But I genuinely believe that if you're going to give the Heisman Trophy to the best player on the best team, and it ain't going to be Jeremiah Smith because he ain't playing quarterback, then you're going to give it to Julian Sayin. And maybe that's it. I think we could see a space where maybe Fernando wins, but it would be with Julian Sayin and Jeremiah Smith showing up together at the Heisman Memorial presentation, like Baker Mayfield and D.D. Westbrook. And then the next year, we know what happened for Baker. Might happen for Julian Sayin too.